Rabbi Sai Azoi. What a story to read on Shavuos. A crossroads, turning point in history. Naomi, who had once been the esteemed wife of the Gadlus Ohr in Eretz Yisrael, Elimelech, is now on her way back from Moab to Beis Lechem, a place which her and Elimelech had left many years previously, turning their back on the people in a time of famine and crisis. She is now alone, bereft of her husband and bereft of her children, anticipating upon her return, where she's going to try to find some food, shame and embarrassment. But she's accompanied by her two daughters-in-law, Rus and Orpah, who are determined to look after her on her path. Naomi tries to send them away. Leichna, Shovna, she says to them, go back to your comfortable life in the Moabite palace where you came from. Why are you with me? But the tearful sisters persist. Ki itach nashuv la'ameich, they say. We're going back with you to your nation. And Naomi sends them away a second time, and here she's more insistent. At this point, the two sisters' paths diverge, so dramatically. Orpah gives up, kisses Naomi, turns her back and leaves. But Rus remains determined. V'Rus davka ba. But look what happens now. Rus goes on to become the great-grandmother of David HaMelech, whereas Orpah, say Chazal, goes and does disgraceful acts and eventually becomes the ancestress of the great rival of David, Goliath HaPlishti. Yet the Meforshim say that until this point, Rus and Orpah have been on a comparable madrega, a comparable level. What happened at this moment, at this crossroads, which caused their paths to diverge so radically? My high. Rav Yosef Zev Lipovitz was born near Bialystok in 1886 to a family of Kotzker Hasidim. At the age of 16, he came across some bochrim from the Slobodka yeshiva who told him all about the yeshiva, and he was very interested, and he went and enrolled there. He became an extremely close Talmud of the Alter Slobodka and of the Rosh Yeshiva, Ramosha Mordechai Epstein, who actually gave the responsibility to young Rav Yosef to say shir when he was away for the yeshiva. In 1923, he and his wife made Aliyah to Tel Aviv, which was a place where he was extremely prolific. He was a Maggid Shir in Yeshivat Tel Aviv and helped to set up Yeshivat Ohr Somayach in Yafo. He and his wife opened a small restaurant in Rehov Lilienblum. That became a place for disseminating Torah to the traditional people of the city. Everywhere he went, he would darshan, often walking to 5 or 6 different places every Shabbos to give shiurim. His messages were powerful and yet very refined, touching the lives of many, many people. Today he is best known for his beautiful sefer on Megillas Rus called Nachlas Yosef. Back to that crossroads moment with Rus and Orpah. Why did their paths diverge so dramatically? So Rav Lipovitz picks up, typically, a beautiful hint from the text. The first time Naomi sends them away, she says to them, Leichna Shovna. But this second time, even though her words are harsher and they are seemingly more rejecting, she says to them, Shovna Benoisai. She calls Rus and Orpah her daughters. Rus has got the sophisticated listening ear to hear the subtle message being portrayed underneath the words of rebuke. Benoisai, a mother never leaves her daughter, and she clings on to that. V'Rus davka ba. But this inner message is lost on Orpah, who can only hear the superficial words of rejection, and she turns her back and walks home. And now look how history will divide them. Orpah's life and legacy are dreadful, but from Rus will come David HaMelech, whose Tehillim are replete with that quality of his great-grandmother, to find and give voice to the inner, deeper meaning of circumstances and events, however trying they might seem. And that's exactly what Rav Lipovitz did in his Torah contribution. His messages to his audiences in Tel Aviv were refined and they resonated at a deep level, inspiring many to become more observant. And in his writings, his understandings of the subtleties of Lashon Chazal and how they fit into the Psukim and apply to our lives is really exceptional. Rav Lipovitz's own life was not easy. Financially challenged and childless, he spent the final years of his life confined at home with a debilitating heart disease. Yet nevertheless, one of the themes that he emphasizes in Nachlas Yosef is that difficulty and challenge don't have to be final. In fact, Rus actually rose to her greatness through experiencing and how she responded to the difficulties that she endured, eventually becoming the great-grandmother of the line of Mashiach. During those final years of hardship, that was actually when Rav Lipovitz's shiurim were recorded and his svarim were written. His legacy, his subtle message to the listening ear, like the great Rus, was solidified during that time. In fact, Chazal tell us that one of the reasons why we read Megillas Rus on Shavuos is to remind us that Torah itself is acquired only through struggle and rising to the challenge. A good Shabbos and a good Yom Tov.